Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Bonus Point Podcast Super Rugby Series. My name is TJ Olsen, joined by James Tesserero and Tavita Halafia, and we are now in finals week for both Super Rugby Aotearoa and Super Rugby AU, and then we jump into the Trans-Tasman comp. But before we head into today's episode, I would like to say a quick happy birthday to the Bonus Point Podcast, as we are officially 1 year old. This little passion project of mine has grown so much in front of me, as in front of a blink of an eye, and I loved every minute of it. Obviously, I've got some pretty good company on these shows as well, so thank you guys for 95% of the comments that you guys bring on here. It's a pleasure working with you guys. The 5% we'll leave the rest of those to the side, but one year around, it's been pretty surreal, guys. It feels like COVID was when it started. It was forever ago, but. Yeah, fellas, it's been good. Thank you for jumping on.
I'd just also like to say happy birthday, TJ. We've grown as a podcast because I've mentioned LeBron James less and less the longer that the podcast has gone on. It's also coincidentally the fact that they've now dropped to 6th and look like they're about to drop to 7th and may possibly miss finals. So we're a bit older, a bit wiser, and I'm a bit happier.
Is there anything you would like to add, James, that doesn't involve LeBron James by any chance?
To bring it back to rugby, mate, just happy first birthday to the podcast, and I'm chuffed to be on it anytime I'm invited.
Yeah, awesome.
Always
bring it back to rugby and some positivity.
No, we got the two best analysts on the go. We keep giving this stuff out, and then Super Rugby AU just keeps picking it up. But let's jump in, and we'll talk about these matches that happened over the weekend. And the first one we had was a semi-final matchup between the Western Force and the Brumbies. So we knew coming into this matchup the Force weren't the favourites to get the W in this contest. But I think that when you look at what they've done this season, I think it's a big win for them, especially with how they went just 1 year ago. James, I do want to talk about that a little bit with you, because with the Force's unique playing style and the trajectory they're on from just 1 year, now that they've actually had a pretty good preseason, they've had good preparation, and they've got some quality players in their side, and they seem to be adding more to it. How are they stacking up heading into this Trans-Tasman competition?
I'm not sure that they'll really bother many of the top Kiwi sides. They're certainly getting better through time, and I think that's kind of a function of having some senior players, having almost no preseason, and kind of building and getting better throughout the season. So they're kind of peaking late. There might be some improvement left in this season, but I don't think they've got enough firepower to really trouble the big boys across the ditch.
Oh, get off it!
That's the best impersonation I've heard in a while.
Dude.
Yeah, straight
killer.
If you can do that straight face, you're pretty solid there. No, but we saw the Force
joke on the pod.
Oh, please don't. I don't know if I could make it back from there. I don't know if I could make it back with any of the Kiwis that listen to it. They'll sit there and go, "Yep, I'm done listening to this show. I wash my hands of this. Thank you very much." Oh man, but I love it. It's a funny joke. I'll laugh at it. But they won virtually none of their games in 2020. Like I said, after having no preseason, then a year later they make the semi-final. I do want to have a look at who they're adding into their squad. So we spoke about it a little bit off air. Isaac Rodder has been, we don't know if he's going to come into the Trans-Tasman comp or if he's going to start in 2022. Hala, if they make a couple of changes or a couple of tweaks to their squad, do you think they would be able to come back a very competitive force against the Reds and the Brumbies and that sort of outfit?
Yeah, I think, you get the right people in the right positions. We spoke about that earlier this year, key positions where new players could be injected. But I think what got them through this far was just that good teammanship that they've got. They've really got to, you watch how they play, and they do play as one team. So hopefully they're not bringing in anyone that can disrupt that, because I think that's the greatest force behind them.
Oh, man.
That was good. I didn't even plan that. I thought that was great.
I think you've been planning that for 5 years, and you've just been waiting to use that.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, I think we've had enough force puns, but let's chat up about the finals matchup between the Reds and the Brumbies. So the Reds, obviously the favourites by a lot by people this weekend, but when you look at the stats, there are some interesting factors that come into play here. The Brumbies are the competition's overall try leaders and the leaders in meters carried. However, the Reds are the leaders in clean breaks and defenders beaten. So both very deadly on attack. So you'd think that this game is going to come down to who has the bigger defensive effort. When you look at the tackles won percentage, the Brumbies have a slight advantage by, I believe, by like 1%. So it's going to be interesting. But you've also got a few different set piece statistics that do come into play as well. So, Hala, I know you've been picking the Reds to win all season. What particular part of their game brings you the most confidence that they will get the job done?
For me, it's the scrum. I think their scrum's definitely going to be more powerful, more direct. Now, I mean, Naleta Ball is the one guy that I've been talking about the last year, and I remember saying if he can get his scrums right and where he's not being bullied and he's not being picked off, then he's going to be able to hold that front row, by himself and be so commanding. And he's shown that week in, week out this season that when he's on in the scrums, that scrum's not being beaten. And I just think Samu's out, and that's a big loss for the Brumbies. I could be wrong, but I'm very sure Samu's out this weekend.
I think you are correct in that one.
Yeah, I think that's a big loss, especially the 6, 7, 8 Reds versus Brumbies. Like that's a beautiful competition. I just think that, and is Scotty Seo's out too? Yeah.
I can't confirm that. I'm not sure, to be honest. I don't know. He's in it. He's in and out so much because he's just he's ancient at the moment. So I just don't know whether he's in 1 week or he's out the next. So
yeah, but I look. I honestly think that's going to be the forward packs. By Sami not playing, it probably isn't a bad thing. I really like Stewart and how he's commanding the troops around, but I think it's going to be the forward pack. And I just think the Queensland Reds forward pack are just too good in the scrums, and especially around the rucks and mauls, just that little bit more agile, a little bit more aggro, a little bit more powerful.
Mm-hmm. I think
and
you are
fitter.
correct. Yeah, I would say fitter as well, because I think going off memory, I think the scrum won percentage for the Queensland Reds, I think they're at 100%. And when I looked at the second one, I believe it was the Brumbies, and they were under 90%. So I think if they're able to get their scrums on the right foot, I think that should be the catalyst to getting them the win. But I think it's gearing up as a really interesting matchup, and it's one for the ages because there's a lot of confidence in both camps. So Dan McKellar made some very interesting comments in the media recently, saying they're everyone's favorite child at the moment. They're talking about the Reds, and there's a lot of people who would love Queensland to win the competition. All the pressure's on them, really. They've been saying it's their time all year. We're not concerned about the previous results. We're excited to go up to Brisbane in front of a good crowd and put them under pressure, and we'll see if it's their time. So that's pretty confident coming into that. They're obviously the underdogs in this, but they've suffered 2 losses against the Reds, but they know what it takes to get the job done because they're the reigning champions. So, James, when you look at that and the confidence that they're bringing to this matchup, what do you think the Brumbies need to do to get the win this weekend?
Firstly, that comment from Dan McKellar sounds right out of the Michael Checker playbook.
100%. You were smiling. You love it, James.
Talking his team down, talking up the opposition. Mate, we don't even really belong on the field with these guys. Everyone's writing us off. That kind of stuff. It's obvious gamesmanship from McKellar, but whatever he needs to do to motivate his boys. In terms of how the game will go, I think if Samu's out, that's a fair loss.
Oh, I was also not Scotty Seo. I was thinking of Folau Fainga. Sorry.
Okay.
No, that's a pretty big loss.
Yeah.
So if he's out, that is a huge loss. Although, who's the replacement hooker seems to be scoring tries the same way. From the back of mauls, from the back of line-out mauls, and that's how they score all their tries. So, like on paper, Fanga's a big loss, but I'll think of his name in a moment. He slots right in and he does the same job at line-out, and that's kind of the biggest part of their attack.
Yep.
In terms of what the Reds need to do to win the game is not give away any penalties inside 40 metres.
Yep.
So you'll just watch as soon as the Brumbies get their attack inside the Reds half, you'll watch the Reds basically just go hands off the ruck, take a fraction off the line speed, just really make sure you're not bringing the referee into it.
I mean, yeah, that's pretty good analysis right there. It'll be an interesting matchup. I'm really excited for this one because
Reds by 50.
Reds by 50. What are you up to? Oh my god! Is this why every time I bet on your TAB account, my money's always gone? It's just because you're just throwing bets out like that.
No
comment. Oh my! No. Well, as James says, let's go across the Dutch and we'll chat about Super Rugby Aotearoa. Although there was a match between the Hurricanes and the Highlanders. The best part about it was Dane Cole's trying to contest his yellow card when he basically was just like elbow dropping him on the ground. So we'll skip that one because we'll have plenty of time to talk about the Trans-Tasman comp when it starts back up. But I do want to chat about the matchup between the Blues and the Chiefs briefly. And I'll start with the Blues. So, Harlow, we spoke about it last week, how a lot of people, including yourself, were picking this Blues team to win it all. And they ended up having such an up and down season. It was quite shocking. I'm pretty sure a lot of people were. So, although they did get a win against a pretty average Chiefs side, you now have to wonder how the AB selectors are looking at this side. And the question I want to make is, is there a chance for some players to redeem themselves when they play in this Trans-Tasman comp, or who's definitely going to miss the cut this year from their performance?
Akira Yuwani will not be making the All Blacks at all.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
And the big one for me is just his capacity to not step up consistently. It was just really, he was either doing too much or not doing enough. And I think that inconsistency just goes to show where his head's at and how he mentally processes tough moments. If he makes the side, I'd be very pleasantly surprised. I also think there's just been a lot of back three who are just playing way better than him.
Well, here's a question that I'll add on to that then is, do you think that he may make the cut because you've got guys like Artie Savia, you've got Sam Kane, you've got a lot of those back three guys that are injured right now. Do you think that he would be able to make the cut because of that?
No, I mean, is it? I always forget his name. The Hurricane 7.
Creefy? Yeah, Creefy. Yeah,
Creefy. Yeah. That guy's had a stellar season, man. That guy's he's been in the camps, and I think that he performs under pressure a lot better than Akira Yuwani has. Here's the thing: Akira Yuwani is just physically gifted, but how many times do you need to give this guy a shot to really step up? And he didn't step up this year for the Blues at all.
Yep. No, I agree with that. I think it's going to be a tough sell if you're Ian Foster and you're trying to pick an All Black side and you want to put him in the squad. I mean, if you end up putting him in the training squad, so be it. But if
it just got broken today, so Italy's pulled out, right? So they're trying to go 2 games with Fiji and 1 with Samoa. So maybe that's the saving grace. Maybe he gets that shot, but who knows?
I don't know. Yeah, I personally, I really do enjoy him, and I think he did very well he played quite well for the All Blacks last year, and I think he really deserved it. But yeah, this year, you'd have to keep him out just based on form.
Well, on a coaching tip, James, do you reward players that played at that level and then have had a terrible run this season? Or how do you? Because especially when you've got players that play in the exact same position that have actually had amazing seasons.
Yeah, mate. I think the selections for the internationals at this stage are kind of a little bit shaped by how far we are out from a World Cup. So you can probably pick some less experienced guys who are in form and really just reward form that way. A little bit closer to a World Cup, maybe you pick the guys have done a job in big moments at international level.
Yeah, that's fair.
Again, it's a good dilemma to have when you've got kind of very experienced, incumbent, talented guys, and then you've got uncapped, unproven guys nipping at their heels and trying to force selection.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing where you can I guess make those risks in this period, especially with COVID playing a factor and you having limited tests and you being able to I guess get guys into the system. You'd rather start doing that because you can always come back to guys like Akira if they were able to stand up the next season or the season after. But at least now you've got those guys. Say for example, if Folau Fakatava wasn't injured, he would be in there straight away.
Well, I'm glad he is because hopefully another halfback comes and kills it, and then he declares for Tonga.
I knew that was coming. Oh man! But James, I do briefly want to speak to you because we did talk about how no team has really rested their side a week out before a finals and be adequately prepared to face the Crusaders in the final. But the caveat to that is that both the Crusaders and the Chiefs have basically now had a bye coming into this week because the Crusaders actually had a bye and the Chiefs basically rested their whole side. So Clayton McMillan, in a recent interview, he said that he was confident resting their players because it was the right option as they've been playing the same players week in, week out, and they needed a rest period, and that was the decision moving forward. And they said that they'll find out on Saturday at 9 p.m. if it turned out to be good or bad. And he didn't really want to focus too much on maintaining momentum. So they're playing the Crusaders in Christchurch. It's no doubt there's going to be a sold-out crowd, Orange Theory Stadium. They are the top two in stat lines for basically everything, and this is their possibly 5th championship on the trot. But the Chiefs are currently ranked in number 1 in rucks 1, number 1 in scrums 1, and number 1 in defenders beaten. So I think the only thing that they have had issues with, especially in the earlier part of the season, is just finishing. They're able to get all these amazing plays off, but they just can't finish it off. So what chance do you think the Chiefs have at beating this Crusaders outfit?
Mate, I don't think I think they'll make it competitive, but I think the Crusaders will be too good and too clinical. And going back to your original question, I think it was a mistake to roll out a B-side last weekend. I believe the Chiefs were 5 or 6 wins in a row before this. That's right, after 12 losses in a row, dating back to last year. So momentum is such a powerful thing in sports, and especially for this Chiefs side, like when they have losing momentum, it leads to more losing, and when they have winning momentum, it tends to lead to winning. So although you call it a bye last week, they technically got a loss, and I think the only chance they had to beat the Crusaders was to have a full-strength side, have a red-hot crack, and win that game against the Blues. And not doing that, I think, is a problem.
Hala, agree? Disagree? What do you think?
I agree, and for 2 main points, Anton Leonard-Brown and D-Mac. D-Mac, when he's in form, We've at all multiple levels. We've seen him been rested and then come back in the All Blacks jersey and absolutely choke. And we've seen what he's like in the Chiefs when under pressure. Anton Leonard-Brown is exactly the same, and I think those have been their 2 best weapons for both getting the points on the board with D-Mac's kicking as well as their attack play. And I am not completely confident that that was the best decision. I agree with everything that James has said. I just think those 2 players are such big swing players, and I haven't seen them as much as D-Mac's been cold with the boot, ice cold. His team's been on the front foot, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens if they get behind, what those 2 can do. And I think if those 2 aren't firing, Chiefs got no hope.
Yeah, mate, if I can argue with myself for a second here, the other way to
we told you to stop drinking before you get on the podcast, James.
if the Chiefs had gone in full strength and they'd lost and a key player or 2 got nicked up, then their confidence would be absolutely destroyed. So if they took a full strength side into the Blues and they lost that kind of dead rubber, and then they had to face the Crusaders at home, it would be very, very difficult to get them up.
Right.
So if I can argue with myself and disagree with myself, that's the counter argument.
I like that. You just have
for
a
any,
conversation
you know what
with
though,
yourself.
for any other team that you're not playing the Crusaders, yes. I think with the Crusaders, it just doesn't matter because it's the Crusaders, and I want the Chiefs to win. I just think Crusaders at home, that's a big ask.
I think I personally think if they can just keep the Crusaders just down and just play a good defensive game and then just try and get some penalties under their belt, the conversions I think are 95% successful, penalty goals 75%. So if they can get the kicking game really into swing and they can maintain the Crusaders on the back foot, because we've seen it happen hit and miss this season. It's just when the Crusaders turn up each game. But to be honest, when it comes finals time, no one does it better than the Crusaders, except when they played the Reds in 2011. It was that's the only time I've ever seen the Crusaders not be the Crusaders.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, you go.
No, totally agree. And my point was going to be the reason why the Crusaders weren't the Crusaders when they played Queensland could be the same reason why Chiefs have a chance tomorrow. And that's the Chiefs just taking the points, wearing them down. And in that, that 55 to 65 minute mark, just put the icing on the cake and get behind. Like we saw Dan Carter not be able to beat Dan Carter. Chiefs need to make sure Richie Mo'unga, if he's going to shoot for penalties, they need to be not in front and outside of that 40. And that could be, now we're talking about, do you deliberately try and get them like that? Because I think line out wise, it's quite even. I do like the line outs.
Yeah, because the Crusaders have got a few injuries at the moment, so I think it has started to stack up quite evenly. As opposed to if they were both at full strength, I think the Crusaders would dominate them. But yeah, I think with the squad they've currently got now, I do believe it is quite even in that retrospect.
But DNA doesn't lie, bro. The Crusaders know how to win, man.
Who cares? I'm chucking $20 on it anyway.
We're putting all that money in our TAB account on the Chiefs, bros. We're getting big. We're winning big this weekend.
Why not? It's just sitting in the.
We haven't touched
waiting.
it.
Yeah, it's sitting in the account, all my Super Bowl winnings. So we'll go with that. But
sitting there.
Have a real go and dip into your rent money.
Yeah. I'm not that spicy. Okay.
I'm gonna use my Californian.
What is it? Stimulus package.
My stimulus package.
Yeah. Oh man, you got nothing to lose.
100%.
It comes on the check. It comes on the check that Joe Biden sent you out. Be like used for TAB. There you go. Yep, I like that.
It's my Cinco de Mayo money.
It's your Cinco de Mayo money. Oh my god. Oh man, no, I want tacos. But okay, let's switch gears one more time. And this last segment that we're going to talk about, it's all about the ladies because we witnessed the Chiefs and the Blues women go up against each other for the first time, making history at Eden Park. I was a very proud coach because I'd coached a few of these women before, and to see them get an opportunity like this was incredible. I was also very happy to see the Chiefs get a convincing win over the Blues because a lot of people were picking the Blues to get the W the whole time. So, Hala, your thoughts on this matchup? What do you think about it?
Dude, I thought it was great. We spoke about it the last podcast, just what this will do for, the women's rugby game in New Zealand. And I think we saw so three things that I pulled away, and I'm going to bring up my notes. Give me 2 seconds. So the first thing we saw was the difference between the high-level athletes comparatively to some of the younger girls or club girls that have come through. And it wasn't like there was a big disparity, but you could just sort of tell what was clicking and what wasn't.
It's more evident.
Yeah, 100%. The second one was the women's game in New Zealand is in really good hands. I thought the decision-making was really good, and I enjoyed the gameplay of it. And that's not to assume that it was going to be terrible because they're women or anything like that. It's literally because it's been so long since there's been games. So I was just really interested to see, you put any two teams together that are all from different areas. It's not like a club team or, people you regularly hang out with.
Yeah.
So that was really cool to see. And the
And
third,
that actually brings up a good point as well, because if that was the case, you'd probably back the Blues in that sense as well, because the
100%.
majority of their players, they all play with each other in club, but as opposed to the Chiefs, who some of them are from Counties Manukau, which is South Auckland, and some of them from the Waikato, some are from just all over, like Bay of Plenty. So
Yep.
that makes a really good point.
Yeah, and the third thing was they've got support. The support's there, so I was really encouraging. I enjoyed it, and I think they need to expand this really quickly. And who knows if they've now they got a private equity stakeholders in them now, so maybe some of that money should go into developing from roots up women's rugby. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. Honestly, I didn't watch it live, had to watch the replay, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
It was good stuff. I personally wasn't surprised by the Chiefs' victory, because I felt the Chiefs had a more balanced team. And you spoke about that, Hully. You saw a bit of the disparity between you wouldn't say second tier players, just the younger players or the more inexperienced players comparatively to the Black Ferns or something like that. Although the Blues had multiple Black Ferns in their forward pack, there was a lot of leadership. The back line and their bench was a very young side. You can see some of the decision making and execution was a bit all over the place. Some were really good, some were really bad, but I was surprised how poor the Blues were at the breakdown, considering a lot of the turnovers came from their forwards. But I'm very happy with how the Chiefs did in this game. I'm very happy with just the state of women's rugby as well. But James, I do want to pick your brain a little bit just quickly, because their schedule coming up, if they do decide to move forward with this, may be a bit difficult when it comes to, I guess, maintaining that high performance and trying to keep it, I guess, just sensible for people who are trying to follow in the footsteps of professional athletes. So if they had this Super Rugby competition, they would also have club sprinkled in around there. And then after that season, then they would have FPC, which would go all the way, Farah Palmer Cup, all the way to basically the end of the year. And they would have to jump into a preseason straight away for these Super Rugby teams. And most of these girls, they work full-time jobs and things like that. Do you think that this is sustainable unless if they don't have the correct funding going into it to pay some of these girls the correct wages or things like that? Do you think they can keep it up?
I definitely think there's a bit of risk to expanding too quickly. And although this would be the best result kind of in rugby terms at the top tier, you want to make sure that the bottom level and the participation level is sustainable. In Australia, we're making some mistakes in terms of we're now contracting more and more kind of Wallaroos girls. Those Wallaroos girls are training more and more as full-time professionals, which takes them out of their clubs, and that's really weakening the club standard. And teams are having forfeits. Teams are having to reschedule. It's kind of ripped the guts out of the women's club game. So as long as they can kind of line up the calendars and make sure that an extra women's tier at the top doesn't cannibalize the player group at the bottom, I guess it should be a benefit, but there's certainly some risk to expanding too quickly.
And there's something I totally forgot to even add as well, is that they did just create that women's 15 competition. So that won't start next year because the Women's World Cup has been postponed, but that's the international competition that will be happening annually as well. So that's going to be sprinkled in there. And plus, I didn't even think about Black Ferns tests as well that happen when they play the Wallaroos or they do other things like that. So it is going to be quite a compact schedule. And I think a lot of people who are trying to follow their passion are going to struggle a bit with it. But let's hope that there will be more funding, because especially if it does happen for both Australia and New Zealand, this is where the private equity stuff could come in handy, is that they could start funneling some money into these grassroots programs and into
just cost them their soul.
Yeah. Don't say that. That makes me sad. But before we end this segment, I will talk about my standouts for the game. So the woman of the match for me has to go to Hazel Tubic. Quality on both sides of the ball. Her kicking for points was insanely accurate. I was looking at some of her kicks.
What a kick.
That was on the sideline, and I was sitting there going, like gender aside, that's
Bro.
probably one of the best conversion kicks I've ever seen in my life.
Hard.
So it was amazing. Patricia Maliepo for the Blues, she definitely proved that she is the future of this Black Ferns backline and Black Ferns side, considering how talented she is, and she's still only in high school. I think she's still 17 years old, and she was one of the standouts for that game. So very interested to see how she progresses over the years if she sticks with this trajectory. And I believe my favorite player of the match had to be Les Elder, just because of how she embodies that Chiefs mana ethos. She embodies what it is to be just that hard worker, because she's 35. She's been playing.
I actually heard a rumor she's 48, bro. I don't know.
She doesn't look like it. She's beautiful, but yeah, oh my gosh. But she had a catastrophic injury, I think, in about 2018 that almost ended her career, and then she had a baby, and then she's still playing out there like she's bloody 18 years old. So it's nuts.
Fit as a fiddle, dude.
Oh man, she's insane.
Holy moly.
But at the end of the day, all of these women were phenomenal. I can't wait to see more women's Super Rugby played in both 100%. Australia and New Zealand if we can figure out a great system. But unless you guys have anything to add, I think we'll leave it there. I mean, yeah, that'll be us.
Guys, predictions for the final.
Yeah. Okay, let's do that. Okay, so James, Super Rugby AU, who's going to win it?
I think the Reds will win by less than 7 points.
Okay, Hulla?
Just so I don't agree with him, I'm going Reds 12 plus, 13 plus.
I want to back the Reds because they're on form.
I
think the Brumbies by 7.
Mate.
I think the Brumbies by 7. I think they'll keep it a tight game. They'll come prepared and they'll be ready to go.
Not if Pete Samuel's not playing.
Never know. We've seen crazier, but we'll move on. You can take my money and you can throw it away if you'd like to. I don't care. But Super Rugby Aotearoa,
mate, I'll bet my rent money on the Crusaders.
He's confident.
Yeah,
he's confident.
I'll pay that,
mate. You live with your mum. What are you talking about?
No, he doesn't.
Sydney rent.
Sydney rent. Yeah, Sydney rent. That's a lot of money. Yeah, that's 10 grand a month, isn't it? Sydney rent
a week. That's 10 grand a week.
10 grand a week.
Wow.
Who you got?
I hate to say it, I can't see the Chiefs beating the Crusaders, so I'm going Crusaders. But I think it's going to be a close game, and I'm going to go under 7 to Crusaders.
Screw it. I'm doubling down. Chiefs by 3. Oh man.
I want that to and you know what? That's not bad considering their last few games.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Look, if they come correct, anyone can, but hopefully I hope I'm wrong for this one. I hope I'm wrong.
Well, I'm probably going to be wrong for both of them, but I'm trying to send everything out in the universe, and I'm just trying to make it happen. So it's positivity, guys. It makes everything happen. So, but we'll leave it there. We'll see how we go. This is going to be the first match up in a while that I'm actually going to stay up and watch because
I know
too bloody late here in LA. It's midnight for us for the Chiefs Crusaders and 2:45 in the morning for the Reds and Brumbies, but it's worth it.
I'll bring the beers, bros. I'll bring the beers.
It's gonna be.
Don't start too early, mate. If you start too early, you'll be snoring before kickoff.
Yeah.
No, I won't. No, I won't. Ask TJ. I rocked up to training one morning. The poor dude was next to me. He's like, "What time did you go to sleep?" I was like, "Oh, 4:35." Rock up to training, and I was like, at 9 a.m. beach workout, and I was like,
yeah. That's the one. If he makes it and he turns up to training, that's all I care about. I don't care what it looks like. But
I'm a real professional. I still get to training, mate.
All right, guys. It's been a pleasure doing what I love and can't wait to continue doing this another year. James, Hulla, thank you so much, guys. I appreciate everything you guys do for this podcast, and I appreciate every person who listens, supports, every guest we've had. It's been incredible. I've been really enjoying every minute of it. But James, you can have some words, and Hulla, you can have the final word.
Mate, nothing to say. Just a big weekend of rugby ahead, and looking forward to it very much.
Hulla, what do you got?
No, just happy birthday, guys. It's been a great year. Looking forward to the weekend for like Super Rugby finals. I just didn't think we'd get to say that. So I'm glad we
seriously.
can watch some Super Rugby. I'm sure all of us will be texting in the same thread during the game. So I'm looking forward to it, boys.
And we still have another final to look forward to as well. So there you go.
Between the Blues and the Reds.
Full of jokes today. All right, everyone, thank you for tuning in. We will see you guys next week after so we can recap all the games. Have a good evening. We will talk to you soon.
See you later.
Yep.